Thunder, and this is Two Dads React. And we're taking a look at some strange things that are happening in California. Some strange things. Of course, we have a number of videos that we'll be reacting to as we sort of warm the show up and get all the way into the main attraction. And it seems like something that's worked well as we've kind of gone back and forth with this. So uh, you're in for a great show. One of my other co-hosts, Ike Ogiamian, is he's saying that we're lame because dads are lame. we're two lames. two lames react. Um, uh, what's happening, Anthony Allen? Come on in. And but we are going to be talking about some strange things that are happening in California, some strange weather stuff, just some strange stuff. What's going on in California? What's happening? And I've got some relationship kind of TikTok videos and some other kind of videos and some different things so you're going to want to go ahead and grab some popcorn. We'll be here for about an hour and a half. Let's go. What's happening, man?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm all right. It's good to see you. Last week I was in Florida, and we were doing the remote version of the
Yeah.
show, which worked out all right until a troll showed up, and I got all distracted and stuff. But anyhow, we are. Let's see here. We're here. Somebody is asking me, "Are you doing any jazz concerts?" Yeah, I actually just came from a jazz concert. If you hurry up, well, watch the
Hey,
show here. But after this show is over, make sure you go to check out the stuff on my channel. Some of the other stuff. Good evening to you. What's happening, AB Media? I see you. I see you, Floyd Holt. It's good to see folks in here. And
hey, bro, can you give me 1 sec? I'll be back in a minute, okay? That's cool.
sure,
Okay,
sure,
just a few minutes. I don't know if you can take me off the screen.
sure. All right. So our second dad is he's got to do some lame dad stuff. You know, some lame dad stuff, and he'll be back in just a minute. But let me talk a little bit about some things that are happening on my channel. So I am migrating all of my music stuff over to my second channel, to my music channel. So it is now my music channel. This is my convo channel, my conversation channel. This is where the social commentary will take place, and some reaction videos and all that kind of stuff. That's where this channel will be, and the other channel will be where the music stuff is. Now, for the time being, what's happening, Art New Style? For the time being, what I'm going to do is I'll still be live streaming my concerts and things on this channel because this channel's monetized. The other channel's not monetized yet. Now, what'll help the other channel get monetized is if you all will go over to the second channel. And the second channel, if let's see here, let's see here. Second channel, just look for Dr. Thunder Music. If you search Dr. Thunder Music in your YouTube search, you'll find my second channel, right? And instead of saying Convo on the what is it icon? What am I talking about? The avatar or whatever. It'll say music. So make sure you go over there and check that out. And during the show, I'll post the link so folks can do that. Oh, the second our second lame is back of the two lames, or the two.
Who said that? Was that a
lame
guy in
dads.
is that a guy in the comment section or something?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
nice.
anyhow, but Ike Ogiamian, he's my co-host on Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. He also is the moderator for our joint panel show that we do on Sundays. So anyhow, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's see what we got.
Video breakdown.
All right. So let's see what she has to ask this guy. All right. Let's see what she's going to ask. Here we go.
Are you taken or are you single? Oh, you're married. Would you let your wife do OnlyFans?
I don't know. I'm too jealous for that.
What if she was making like a couple mil a year?
She could do what she want to do.
Yeah! Switch up real quick, huh?
So, I don't know, man. It just, I just don't think that. Why should money matter? What do you think of that? Why do you think money should matter? Should money matter? Should he be okay with it as long as he's making a lot of bread from the deal?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But I mean, on top of that, I mean, it'd be like extremely rare for that to happen anyway. So
Right.
it'd be like 1 out of a million chance of that happening, like being struck by lightning or something, probably. Because a
Isn't
lot
it
of people
kinda
don't
like-
make anything on there, from what I understand.
Yeah, isn't it kind of like indecent proposal, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
Kinda
a
like
lot of
that?
things. it could go south too. I mean, he might think it's okay at first, and then he'll start really hating it after a little while, once he realizes what the cost is. So, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. So that's just getting us. We're just getting warmed up with that one. Okay. So that's it. That's an easy one. Let's see here. All right. This has got a little bit. This is a little more substance to this one. So let's see what he's talking about. So it says, Darius McCrary says child support is a cold-blooded hustle, and where are all the fathers? Okay, so let's see what this is about.
It's a cold-blooded hustle.
And okay, so
definitely.
So the first guy talking about, I'm gonna pause this one because it kind of combines a few different videos. But the first guy's saying, he's asking about where the fathers are, and here let me repeat just the last little bit of what he said here.
Documentary called "Where Are All the Fathers?" Where are all the fathers? And now we're in a society now where it's very difficult for a man to be a man.
Do you think it's hard for a man to be a man today?
Yeah, probably. I mean, not for me because I'm contained in a decent relationship and all that, but I think for some men it is, especially in some places where you live too. I mean, it depends where you live in America. I live in Indiana, man. So Indiana's not exactly the California. It's not exactly something like that. So I think it's a lot harder in somewhere like California or Michigan because the laws are sort of stacked against you. And of course, if you're not in a good relationship, the laws are stacked against you and you have a bad relationship, it's really not good at all. But somewhere like I live, if you have a good wife and the laws are okay, then it's not as bad. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but you're a passport. You're a passport bro, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, especially if they're younger women, I would definitely be like, I don't see a lot of good fruit. You know what I mean? Out there.
Hold on.
There's a few. I'm sure there's a few.
Hey, man, I can't have you down talking, American women like that, man.
I'm talking fruit, man. I'm not talking women. What are you talking about?
Hey, so.
And I don't know what they identify. I don't know what they identify as. I mean, they could identify as a man. I don't know. So whatever.
Oh, no.
I can play that game too, man. I can play the game. I know how to play it.
All right. So he said this thing about using child support for your living, for your sort of lifestyle,
Yeah.
What do you think of that? So first of all, do you think this is a common thing? And then the second thing is,
he said 1%er, man.
Right.
Of course it is. In that case, it's like 100% of the time, probably, or maybe near 100%.
Okay.
If you're a 1%er, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some states where it doesn't really. I don't know what happens if you're in Indiana and you're one of the 1%ers. I don't know how that works with child support for them.
Do you think it should be a flat rate? Do you think it should be like a flat rate child support, or do you agree with the sort of based on the person's income, percentages based on the income?
Well, I'm not sure. I kind of feel like, it might be somewhere in the middle because like once you're talking about really ridiculous money, then I don't think it should be really applying as much. Because I mean, you're talking like $50,000 a week or some ridiculous amount of money. It's just, well, what are you doing? It's insane. But of course, I don't have to worry about that because I don't have that much money. But
but if you think about so you think about it, 20. Okay, so Brittany Renner, recently she did an interview on Just Pearly Things, Pearl Davis, her YouTube channel, and she brought out some details about her situation. So she's divorced from the father of her kid. She got divorced real quick after the baby came there. So she said that she's getting $2,500 a month, and she was saying that,
Brittany Renner?
She
I've heard of
thinks it
that
should
name.
be. Yeah, it's yeah. She's
Is she
a
a YouTuber,
yeah.
right? Or what?
Well, she's like one of the original Instagram girls.
Oh, okay.
Okay, she's like, but she's
Okay.
still. I mean, she's still pretty young. When she's 29 or something, maybe she's 28, 29. She's in that range.
Okay. Her name sounds
But
familiar. I didn't know who she was though.
yeah. So, but anyhow, okay. But she said 2,500 is what she was getting, and they were going back and forth and talking about it. And she brought up some other factors like, well, if the kid got used to going to a private school and the kid got used to doing all this X, Y, and Z stuff, then that stuff shouldn't change. And so if they're used to riding around in a Lambo, then she should have a Lambo to drive him around.
Well,
And my thing is like, what what is the benefit? What is the benefit to the woman to stay married if she gets to, well, hey, the kid needs a Lambo, because
I don't think a kid would care so much about a Lamb. Anyways, Lamborghinis suck for comfort, man. They're really loud.
Yeah,
They're very.
no.
They're not. They're nothing. It has nothing to do with comfort. It's just
Okay,
speed.
okay. Substitute the word
Yeah.
Bentley. Substitute
Okay,
the word
all right,
Bentley.
all right. Yeah, I know what you're saying. But no, man. I think there's I mean, I can understand maybe the school part or something. Because they were already in that school, and I'm sure the father probably wants them in the same school. I don't know. So I think it's kind of like something between the two of them. They have to kind of figure out for themselves. I don't think a court should be telling you to pay a ton of money or some ridiculous thing like that. Why does a court have rights over your life, anyways? I mean, why does a court have right to tell me what to do? Why do they have? Can I tell the court? Can I tell the judge to pay $5,000 a month to his ex-wife? Can I tell him? No, I can't. Why is he able to tell me that? What gives him the right to tell me that? Does the Constitution give him that right? I don't think so.
No, it doesn't.
I think it's a joke, man. I think especially if you're making a ton of money, why does the judge have any right to tell you anything in civil court? But that's just my opinion. So,
all right, let's keep going.
My mouth.
Yeah. So he paid up early, and she complained that now she has to go get a job, or now she's got to do something a year early or 6 months early than she was going to have to. And it's like, dude, if you were actually doing with that money what you were supposed to do with that money, then there wouldn't have been there wouldn't have been an issue. But basically, she got used to getting that fat check with extra in it, and didn't have the discipline to put money aside.
That's like
and now she's claiming that she's going to get evicted from her place and all this kind of stuff.
Well, there's some people like that, they don't know how to. They get money and they don't think straight. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But hey, man, should we talk a little bit about some of the stuff going on with California?
Absolutely. Let's switch over to your screen.
All right, so I have to actually get this thing going here. I think it's kind of amazing. This kind of reminds me. I don't know if I can get this on screen better. All right, can you pull it down or something, or no? This is kind of.
I think you have to do that same thing you did last time. It's like something about
like this. There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
There we go. Yeah, my fault. All right, here we go. So we got obviously a ton of flooding going on in California, and they had a drought forever there. It just makes you wonder. We've seen all this strange weather over the last, I would say, probably 7 years. And of course, I remember headlines on Drudge Report. I used to read Drudge Report a long time ago. I don't read it anymore, of course, because it's messed up. It's actually kind of weird because a Chinese company bought out Matt Drudge's father's business, and next thing you know, right after that happened, all of a sudden his Drudge Report completely changed, which is kind of weird. But I remember like 15 years ago seeing headlines of China now is controlling their weather with this new technology, and I'm like, they were telling people this 15 years ago, and then we'll even have our own GOV via the military and stuff telling you that we have this technology. They'll admit it, but then if you go to the regular news outlets like MSNBC, CBS, all these guys, they'll say you're crazy if you think these things, even though they've already admitted this stuff happens. But I just find it kind of crazy how they had a drought during the farming season, but when the farming season's over, they got the floods. I just thought that was kind of weird. So you can see it reminds me of other flooding I've seen, and we've seen a lot more weird weather over the last, like I said, 5 to 7 years. I actually, back in 2019, that's all I did was nonstop videos about the crazy weather, because there's like these graphs of how much more we're seeing with natural disasters and things like that. And back in like 1920, it was like 5 a year. Now it's like 700 a year. So it's really kind of weird how we've had such a huge increase in, just strange weather patterns and things like this. And there was even some stuff like, I think it was it was last year or the year before? I can't even remember. There was like some hurricane that literally stopped over an island and just stayed there like for like 2 days straight. And then it left. I'm like, how does a hurricane stop on a dime and just stay somewhere and then just leave? You know what I mean? I thought that was a little odd as well. But I mean, even back in the 70s, the UK even admitted that they used weather technology to cause flooding in a certain area where they were actually having a WAR, and they were actually able to win doing that. And that was back in the 70s. So this stuff's been around. It's just kind of interesting how we pretend as if, that, I mean, of course you could just say this is completely natural, which may be the case. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just completely natural. I just thought it was kind of weird how we had a drought when we needed the rain the most, and now there's just nonstop rain when you don't need it. I mean, you're not farming right now. You know what I mean? It's winter.
Right.
Although, I mean, there is certain crops. I mean, maybe there is certain crops that are growing good at this time of year. I'm not sure how it works there. But, of course, flooded crops doesn't work very well either.
Right.
You need regular weather. And I don't know. What do you think about all this stuff, folks? I mean, what do you think? Sean?
Well, I mean, okay, so at the risk of sounding sort of apocalyptic and the end times and stuff like that, I will say that a lot of this weird weather and just strange stuff in general, I mean, you hear this term all the time, unprecedented. You hear it like every day about something.
Yeah,
and
every day now.
Yeah, and that's that sounds like something's changing rapidly. Now, of course, the climate folks, they'll say that global warming, climate change. Well, they don't call it global warming anymore. They call it climate change.
Right.
See, that's what's causing all this stuff. But then they get in their private jet and fly around the world. But don't pay attention to that. That doesn't really matter.
Well, it is. You mentioned I think you're sort of implying the Bible, where it actually talks about some of the stuff will increase in the latter, of course, times.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that could be. I mean, obviously, maybe that's a far simpler explanation than me saying there's some sort of technology. Because I mean, obviously, maybe in some cases there is nothing being used. But it is curious because even right now, China is using it to actually improve their crops and things like that. So, and you have to ask yourself, if one country can use it on their own farming to improve their farming, couldn't one country use it on another country to cause problems for their farming? You know what I mean? If they wanted to, you know what I mean? Like you could, I don't know if that's possible, but I'm guessing it's potentially possible, right? So, but you never hear anything about any of that stuff. You just hear climate change and unprecedented, like you said. And it's not just weather. You see it with everything these days. It's not just weather that's unprecedented, right?
Right.
Indeed. Yeah, so they had a drought. Look at this. So isn't it just so odd how this region was in a complete drought during a time when we had everything closed. So we had all these things closed down, all those businesses back in 2020. And I think that was completely unnecessary. They didn't need to close everything. And then after everything finally opens up, we get a drought. You know what I mean? It just seems like it's like one thing stops, another thing starts. And of course, you could just say it's the hand of God or something like that, or just Mother Nature or something. But it seems to keep happening, though. You know,
Right.
indeed. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. But I actually have some other stuff. Did you see this? And I wonder about this. I wonder what you thought about this right here.
Well, here,
What do
here.
you think
Why
about
don't we
it?
do this? Why don't we
Okay,
do
we'll
this?
cover that next. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah.
You
Let's
wanna
cover
go?
that in the next segment. Let's go. Let's go back
Okay.
over here.
Video
I got a bunch of stuff, by the way.
breakdown.
I got
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of
That's
other stuff.
great. That's great. Okay, so let me show one here. See, what do I got? This. What is this? Okay, yeah, this is a good one. This will be a good one to talk about. We kind of talked a little bit about. You brought the Bible into it a little bit, and and I said
Yeah.
the end times thing and all like that. So this is interesting. And this is by no means do I intend to not besmirching the person or anything like this. But what it is that she's saying, I think, is a thing that a lot of folks especially over this pandemic period of time, I think a lot of people are sort of in her boat, like kind of expressing, they're kind of thinking these kinds of thoughts. And I want to know what you think about it. Here we go.
Hey friends, I wanted to tell you about something that happened to me today. Now, context for this story is that I grew up Christian, but I left church last year. I did it quietly. Not a lot of people knew. I didn't make that decision lightly. I didn't make it in a vacuum, but I wasn't super public about it. So fast forward to today, I'm having lunch with a really good friend of mine who also happens to be a pastor. I took a picture of us and I posted it with this caption. I may not be in church, but I'll never give up my pastor friend, okay? People freaked out when they suddenly realized that I wasn't attending church every Sunday morning. I just want to say, for those of you who are also choosing to not be regular attenders, whatever your reason may be, it's okay. I think it matters so much more how you're showing up on a daily basis. How are you showing up in your family? How are you showing up at your job? How are you showing up on your very worst days? That stuff matters so much more than if you're clocking in on Sunday mornings. Especially if the reason that you're not going to church is because you've been hurt by that church. Honey, you take all the time you need. Take your time to work through that, to sort through it. Go back on your own time. If you choose to go back at all, okay? It's okay. It is okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Just had to get that out. Mwah! I love you.
Okay. So, a lot of people during the pandemic, they, because a lot of churches are doing remote services and all this kind of stuff. And so I think the first step is, okay, well, I can just do remote. And then even when stuff opened back up, people get used to just not really going to church, but just doing the virtual church thing. And then they start to associate that or treat that as though that's the same thing as actually going to church, which of course it's not. And then you have people that, anywhere from that to folks that are outwardly sort of justifying, though they say that they're a Christian, not going to church. And it's tricky. It's tricky because we know that these sort of modern churches are not really what is meant by church as presented in the Bible. Okay, we know that. So, for instance, and I don't have anybody in mind in particular when I say this, but for instance, a mega church, that's not the early church model. Mega churches is not the early church model. So, if you stopped going to and we'll say a mega church, we'll say anything that's more than, like, say maybe 200 people or something like that, that would be considered like huge. It needs to be, we need another church now. We need another autonomous body, right? That's in communion, right? So beyond a certain number, if the pastor doesn't know you like by name and like know your story and know a bunch of stuff about you and your family and can't pray for you specifically, you need like a staff of pastors and stuff like that. This is problematic. Okay. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about where you go to a place and you basically seem anonymous. You have like a sense of anonymity because it's so huge that it's not possible for people to even probably notice you all the time. So anyhow,
Yeah,
I've said a bunch of stuff, but what do you think about what she's saying about can you still be a Christian and not go to church? That general.
Well, I mean, you can be, but my whole concern is, it's not that I think people need to clock in on Sunday at church. That's not really my point. But when you look at how she was talking at the end, she kept saying it's okay, it's okay. It's almost like she's trying to convince herself still that it's okay. It's almost like she knows there's something that ain't right exactly with what she's saying. And it's not that, you need, like I said, it's not like you need to clock in at church, but what I think is going on is we're seeing people replace social media for real contact with human beings. And of course, we see that right now. We're doing social media right now. So, of course, it's good to get your message out to more people, and you can't easily do that in a normal setting. You're usually talking to a couple people at a time. You can't talk to thousands at once or something. But so I think there's a role for social media, but there's also a role for people to have personal contact with others. And I don't think like a virtual church per se is really going to do it unless you're like really active, there are some. I mean, you know what I mean? There's a few out there where they're actually really learning things. And sometimes when you go to a regular church, you don't learn much of anything either. So it depends on why you're going to church. I think the main thing that people forget about is that they need personal contact, be around other people. It's not about just, you learning something or you getting it's not all about you per se. I mean, you are also contributing by being there, and you put a smile on the face of other people by talking to them, saying hi to them, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, you can learn some stuff too. Once in a while, obviously in some churches these days, you don't learn a lot of stuff, but you can learn stuff here and there once in a while. You hear a sermon like, oh yeah, I should be doing more of that, or I should have done that, or that's something interesting to think about. So I think it is actually very valuable to go to church. I think it's also very valuable to study the Word, study various resources, and I think it's even social media is valuable. But I don't think you should throw out any of them. And I know some of my subscribers, they probably don't even go to church. I know there's some that tell me, even in the comment section, I've seen it here and there. Because they got hurt by a church or because they feel like the church ain't even a church anymore, which can be the case often these days. But, I've gotten hurt by people in the church before myself. And there's like tons of other churches too. And you don't have to go to necessarily one of them. You can try to make up with those people. Maybe there's too many irreconcilable differences. Who knows? You know what I mean? So, but I think the most important thing is to realize you're trying to serve God. It's not about you. It's not about them. It's about serving God and not trying to be conformed to this world. This world is really messed up, and trying to conform to this world and go to church is part of the problem as well. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of my thoughts, sort of.
Yeah. So there's a early church saint, Cyprian of Carthage, Saint Cyprian. And this is a quote that he says: "You cannot have God for your father unless you have the church for your mother." And it's interesting because now, first of all, let me say that I think this is totally true. I think it's totally true because the church, the historic body that gave us the Bible, that's how we actually even have the vocabulary or even think of stuff in the way that we do. It's stuff that's been passed down. Who passed it down? Where did it come from? Where did this ideology come from? This thought process? Where did this?
Well, it's also a family too, because I noticed I did some research into some of the early church, I guess how they operated, and they were more like a family, and it was a more closely tied together people. Unlike today, we're more social media based. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things wrong with our society is people are so disconnected. That's why they can't relate to each other. That's why just everything seems out of whack also, is because
Right.
people can't really relate, and they don't treat it like a family. And of course, the GOV on top of that, looking at the family like it's an enemy. That's why you have all the stuff you see around you now. The trans, of course, gender stuff. All these things are, and of course, feminism and all, I don't know if you want me to say these words. All these things that we've been talking about are especially things that go against the family. And the family, its initial structure is from the church, I think. I think you got God the Father, God the Son, and I think the Holy Spirit is essentially in a family structure. I look at it as the feminine, although maybe not feminine. I know
Yeah,
some
yeah,
people
yeah. No, yeah,
some
that's
people
it.
freak
Yeah.
out over that. Some people freak out over that. So you know what I mean. But I look at it as a family structure. You got the Father, the Son, and I look at the Holy Spirit in that respect as the
The
mother
first
figure.
family. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, some people they say, well, it's the Spirit of God, and you're saying the Spirit of God's a female. I'm not saying that per se. I'm just saying in the structure, it's the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I look at it as a family structure.
Yeah.
But that's just I just wanted to mention that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'd argue too, one of our, one of the issues that you cannot, I mean, you can't rectify this. There's no solution for this. There's no virtual substitution for, the Holy Eucharist, communion, the sacraments, right? Physical, presence, matter matters, like this whole sort of Christianity is just this thing that's in your mind. It's basically propositional rather than something that you're actually living out in the physical world. And I think that's inherently problematic. And so if you think that you can just, if you think that you can get what you're intended to get from church purely virtually, I think that I don't think that you can, because I think that a hefty portion of it actually has to do with physical interaction, physically taking the body and the blood, physically, we're talking about with the sacraments, you can't really participate in the sacraments fully virtually. You just can't. That's not what it is. And so when people try to, I've heard a lot of pastors say stuff like, well, I actually think that virtual church is better. During the pandemic, we learned, how to really be able to reach out to people, and go way beyond what we were doing before. And that's actually superior and better. It's like, no, it's not, because it doesn't satisfy the basic reason for going to church.
I think they're looking at like maybe one aspect of reaching more people, but that doesn't cover everything. It just covers one little aspect of one part. You got many different factors. Like you said, even marriage is a sacrament. How can you be married virtually? Although I started thinking about it, I was thinking, well, when I first met my wife, we were actually talking virtually because she was in another country. So it does kind of work.
No.
But
You're vetting. No. You were vetting virtually. No,
right.
You're vetting virtually. That's different.
Well,
that actually is,
is,
and that's actually probably preferred, because then maybe there's less chance that you might slip up in X, Y, and Z.
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying, but I mean, my point is that like,
no. But what am I saying though?
There's something missing. Is the point, right? There's something missing. That's the whole thing. I mean, worst case scenario, if you were like in a prison and you got a phone call, that's better than nothing. But what what I'm saying? I'm thinking of like the guy on the cross next to Jesus, for example. He didn't have much time, and he said, "Remember me when you get into your kingdom." You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't have a chance to get off the cross and get baptized and all this stuff. That's because it's a hard situation. But if you're in a good situation where you can do anything you want, you should be going to church, is what you're saying, basically.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're saying the same thing. I'm kind of picking at stuff, just to make it more interesting. Otherwise, we're just going to say, I'll say something, you say, okay, I agree. and then
Yeah.
you say something, you say, okay, I agree, because most of the stuff that we say is going to be like that. This has been like my best friend since 5th grade. So
Yeah,
we might agree on a few things.
Yeah. Right, yeah, that's true. We don't probably agree on everything, but we used to talk about everything a long time ago in high school and stuff. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, got old, got married, all that kind of stuff. But
all right, okay, let's go back over to you.
All right. So I don't know. Well, I keep seeing these stories, and it kind of makes me want. Maybe it's because I'm naive, but even if these guys do something in the house, like for instance, say they're going to abolish, of course, the IRS or eliminate even income tax, does that actually mean anything's going to happen? Because doesn't it have to go through the Senate? Isn't that what has to happen next? And of course, can't Biden just like strike it down? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, the only way that they can override a veto is, what do they have to have, like a supermajority or something?
Yeah, in the Senate, which they don't have.
Right.
But it's almost like I feel like these people on the, as you would say, right, only look like they're doing something when they don't have to do something. So yeah, let's get rid of the IRS. Let's do all this stuff. Yeah, we get them all excited, and then nothing happens. You know what I'm saying? Like the only time they care is when they know that nothing's going to happen, and it's like maybe they're all bought out or something. Or maybe they just know they can get all excited because there's nothing going to happen. I don't. Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something. Maybe somebody in the comment section can tell me. But this is pretty much meaningless unless they get it passed, right? I mean, in the Senate, right? It's pretty much meaningless. Am I thinking right or am I thinking wrong?
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty much meaningless. I think a lot of
So it just gets people excited for no reason.
Dude, there is so much of that. Matter of fact, on Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder, we had an episode last night, and we were talking about how people just lie all the time, and he was talking about, let's see, in particular, he was talking about who's the guy that owns Twitter now? Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, right? Yeah,
that's right. So he was talking about how Musk lies all the time, right? Because they expect you to.
I've seen him lie, but I mean, it's not like really. I don't know if it's like overt lies, like really, like
no.
Yeah,
well, it's so it's the kind of lies where people keep asking you, okay, what are the innovations that you're coming out with your car? What are you doing? And he says, well, yeah, next month we're going to have this new technology, and it's like it's never true, right? Because he's got to do that because people expect him to be pushing the envelope and have something to tell them. And
he
at some point it's like
he's good at hype. He's good at hype. Is what you're saying.
Okay, yeah. and then we started talking about politicians, of course. So
right.
Politicians just that's their whole thing, is they just lie. It's just all lies all the time, and
it's rare like for this. One not. Yeah, it's rare. It's rare for the other way, but yeah.
It's just people would prefer you to lie to them than tell them the truth. That's I'm telling you, that's the problem, and that's like an incentive. It's like the incentive for them to keep lying is because they recognize that if they actually did tell the truth, a disproportionate percentage of people would like hate on them for telling the truth. Whereas if they just lie to them, then most people are like, yeah. So then you have stuff like this where, it's like the hype man in the hip hop crew, right? And it's like, it turns out that this stuff was a bunch of hogwash because there's no way that you're going to actually be able to make it happen. So
yeah, because my friend was sending me all these. Look, they're going to get rid of the IRS. Yeah, they're going to do all this. He's like sending me all these articles. I'm like, dude, they got to like pass this. They're not going to pass any of this stuff. Now, if they had the Senate, then they'd be freaking out. You'd be like, Joe there would be like freaking out if they actually had the Senate too. Because, I mean, it would be crazy. They would be actually getting stuff through. Potentially in a supermajority. But, of course, even then, that's almost impossible to get a supermajority in the Senate because, I mean, it's very difficult to get all those seats. So you need to have like both House and Senate and the president just to get something really good through fast. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I feel like this is why I got out of politics way back in the old days. I was like, it's all BS. There's nothing that's going to happen, you know? But then you
Right.
get excited, something's going to change, and then it never does. And it's just like, I think eventually something's going to change because these guys are going to get caught. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know,
eventually,
man. I don't know. I think we've been saying the same thing though. We've been saying that, oh yeah, they're going to get caught eventually, but they never
Well,
get caught. They
no,
never get
but
caught.
well, it's like 80 years. You know, usually it takes a WAR. It takes like a world WAR for something to get. That's when they get caught.
80
That's when
years,
they get caught.
dude. If it's 80 years, the dude's not alive anymore.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, my point is where we're at in history right now is probably the best. I mean, not the best, but the most potential time of a world, WAR happening. Number 3,
Right?
Because of all the stuff going on right now, it easily could. But once it happens, there's not going to be anything worth. I mean, everything's going to be, charred earth. You know what I mean? So it's not like number 2 and number 1 where like you can get up afterwards like, oh yeah, let's start up again. Let's get going. It'll be like the end. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like that, but,
oh, goodness.
So hopefully it don't happen. Hopefully it's just someone like grows a spine and just like does something good. I just don't know how it's going to happen, but hopefully something does. I guess you just have to do a little bit more of this. You know what I mean? A little bit more praying, have God intervene or something. That's about the only thing that'll solve this stuff. I think at this point, so.
Yeah.
Well, you got something to show me?
Yeah. I got some more. I got some
right.
more stuff, man. Here we go.
I know it's depressing
Video
talking about
breakdown.
That stuff, so.
Yeah, it's goofy stuff, man. All right, let's see. Let's get rid of this. Let's see here. Okay, now this has got a little bit more meat to it. Actually, the last one was pretty good. The last one was pretty meaty. That was good.
Funny. It's funny. I want to say this about Bill Maher. It's funny that he has become the voice of reason.
Yep.
We're so far gone that Bill Maher's the voice of reason, folks. That's where we're at.
Yeah, it's funny because I think this has happened to a number of, liberals, pretty hard left liberals, progressives, is that stuff has moved so far in a particular direction. Now they're like in the middle now. Now they're like moderates.
It's okay to be a man. Hey, it's okay to have a family. Oh, yes. Come on, keep going. I mean, that's what it is now, man. It's okay to have a job. It's like, go ahead. Man.
This clip is pretty incredible. I'm gonna go ahead and play it. And I don't know. I'll probably stop it a couple times. Here we go.
We're trying to get at the root cause. Why are men in such crisis? I mean, the stats are like only 40% go to college. So they're losing out to women there in a big way. And women with degrees don't marry men who don't have degrees. So
now that's a
he's like they're just clapping. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, right. But right. But it's okay. So women with degrees don't marry guys without degrees. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is generally true. This is almost always true, and it's especially true. It's especially true in the black community.
But they might play with the pool boy, though, right? They'll play with the pool boy, though. They won't marry anybody, though, right? Because he don't have a college degree.
Oh no!
Yeah.
You're not allowed to say that.
That's
you can't say that. Right. But so here's okay. So yeah, so this is worse in our community, and there's all of these unrealistic like expectations, and nobody can achieve the level this level. It's ridiculous. So first of all, if you just consider the 3 things that most women say, I'm talking women that are of dating age, that are single, that they say that they want, the 3 things: 6-pack, 6 feet tall, and 6 figures. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Now,
1%
just take
right
one of
there.
those. Let's just take one of them. Being at least 6 feet tall, that makes you what? That makes you the
5%?
top 10%,
10%.
or something
I
like
thought
that.
it was
of height.
5%. Yeah, maybe 10%. Yeah.
Right.
I know it's in the 5 or
Okay.
10% range for sure.
So you're cutting out 90% of the men just
Oh,
by
yeah.
saying they got to be 6 feet tall. Okay, at least 6 feet tall. Second thing, 6-pack. Well, guess what?
Oh.
Only about 10% of people, period, actually have physical, where you can actually physically see their abdominal muscles. Only 10%. And disproportionately, those people are athletes, and they don't have a 6-pack all the time. Right? So if you're like a bodybuilder, bodybuilders are not ripped all the time. Right? They're ripped for the competition. Right?
Dennis says here, I got 6 teeth, 6 feet tall, and $6. Will that work?
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
6 teeth. I don't know about the 6 teeth there, man. I don't know about 6 teeth. Also, it sounds like you're saying that. It sounds like you're saying that one number too. You know.
Oh, right.
Okay. I don't think he's trying to do it.
Okay, so and then 6 figures. So the average man, we'll say the average man makes 45,000. All right.
Right.
So the average man makes 45,000, and they want a guy that makes 6 figures.
Dennis said 7 teeth. Okay, so we got 7 teeth now. All right.
Okay. He's good, right? So making 6 figures makes you what is that, top 15% or something of all all earners? So
but I mean,
it's
time, like the 10% times 10% makes it 1% right there. 10% times 10% is 0.1 times 0.1. It makes it 0.01, which is 1%. So right there, you already have 1% with those two. So
and then if you add the third thing in that I said,
oh yeah, it's like
right. You're cutting your list down ridiculously. Now, if you on top of that start adding stuff like, I'm not going to date you unless you have a college degree. Okay, so that's another factor, because there's a lot of guys that are more like blue collar guys, and actually the fastest pathway to franchising and actually significant wealth and getting to be a six figure earner is actually blue collar.
Is it?
Yeah, because okay, so if you figure it out, so and this is a common pathway. So say for instance, if you're a mechanic, you work as a mechanic for some years, you get your money up, you buy the garage that you work at.
Yeah, okay.
You hire some other employees.
You're a business owner then, but yeah.
Right, exactly. But that's my point. That's the fastest pathway. White collar actually tends to take people longer to get to that significant level of income.
Right. Now, here's another thing too. All these are 3 completely different vectors, because if you're making big money, you're not thinking about your health often. You're just like trying to do the grind of getting the big money.
Exactly.
You're like focused on your bit. You're probably some overweight. You're maybe not fully overweight. Maybe just not in shape. And then after that, it's like Jeff Bezos. He was like a complete nerd weirdo until he finally got the big money, and then he starts getting ripped after he's already got the money at the age of 50. You know what I mean? Before that, he was just like this complete nerd, you know? And so even Jeff Bezos didn't have the 6-pack like 10 years ago. You know what I mean? He couldn't even fit in there. So it's just kind of funny like that, because, and if it's, you know, and you can't even control your height. So all 3 vectors.
Right. Look, man. No, so here, I know we're not allowed to say this. Yeah, I might as well just go ahead and say it. So of course you have like the body positivity stuff, right?
Oh yeah, fat acceptance or whatever.
Right. So, but here's the issue that
come on, accept my shortness. My shortness is a thing too.
That's right. So here's my issue. A woman can overtly, she can criticize a guy. She can say, "I'm not dating you because you're too short." It's totally acceptable for a woman to do that. Totally acceptable. But a guy is not supposed to say that he won't date someone because they're a certain percentage overweight. But notice the difference. Notice the difference. A person that's overweight could do something about that versus the person that's not tall enough can never do anything about that.
You're 6 foot, right? You're 6'2", right? Or one?
Yeah, I'm 6'2".
1? Yeah, because I'm only like 5'10", 11. Yeah.
You don't make the cut, man. You don't make the cut.
And you might be making 6 figures. I don't know, man. Are you making 6 figures?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't. Maybe you shouldn't tell me that. All right. So, but the only problem is you got the 6-pack. I don't think you got the 6-pack. Not anymore.
I used to have the 6-pack, but yeah, I work too much now to have the 6-pack now.
Yeah, no 6-pack. So I feel I've already failed on these two, man. Unfortunately. So.
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going. That's good.
Great, you'll be lonely forever, aren't you? Why are you cheering that? That's not.
I didn't tell my wife.
They don't marry as much, which I think is great, but other people think that's a terrible thing. Okay, people do like a mate, whatever. That's whatever your boat floats by. But there is something going on. I mean, mass shootings is a uniquely male crime. It's always because some dude in Buffalo, had somebody swipe left on him too much. I feel like that's what's going on here. Is a lot of sort of maleness coming to the fore and announcing itself in violence and racism and hatred because they're lonely and lost and feel that they are not useful in society. How did we get there?
The most unstable nations in the world have one thing in common, and that is they have too many lonely, broke, and alone men. It's the most dangerous person in the world. Salman Rushdie wasn't attacked because of the fatwa. He was attacked because a guy was living in his mother's basement. We have a crisis among young men, and it starts at a young age. There's things in our society.
And where do you put the phone in this equation? Because I put it high up. Thank you. Because I was reading recently Tinder, 2-to-1 male to female.
Oh.
What?
No, it's just a startling statistic, yeah.
Right. But why is it startling? I mean, it sounds like a great idea. Oh, I can just order women like I do a pizza on my phone. I think I'll have the Kelly today. Except when you go on it, it weeds out the people who aren't the best looking, I think, because it used to be go to a bar, okay, maybe it was pot luck, but you have to be able to learn to 100%. Talk to a woman.
And this is interesting because he's making a point that we were making about the girl that said that she wasn't going to church anymore. He's making the same point that we were making in that context. I mean, about actually interacting with real people, this sort of virtual, getting caught up in the virtual world and becoming more and more socially awkward because you're interacting with people less.
You're fighting. You're saying words, and you're just saying your opinion without the person being in front of you. So you have no repercussions for your words. So then you're able to say whatever you want to someone online, and then this causes all these great divisions. And you got people that hate other people. Oh, you're one of those people that like that guy. And because of that, because you can say whatever you want without having any repercussions whatsoever, then people can't understand each other. Then they don't really relate to people. They don't really understand they don't see that frown on your face when they called you a name or whatever it was. And of course, I think the case with the men, these men are trying to get out and react in some way as a man, but they're told you can't be one anymore because men are bad. Don't you know that? So then they don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. So they become,
and the standard is so ridiculous. And the thing is, the standard, see what this whole thing has done. I would argue that girl power has actually contributed significantly to this issue, right? Because
I think so too.
What it has done, I think it's part of it. It has made the ideal guy such a small percentage of the total number of guys. It's made that guy, and then so now, rather than what it is that we say, this country says we say we're monogamous, but actually that's not true, because actually monogamy means one partner lifetime, right? So even people that
serial monogamy. Yeah.
Say it again.
Like the Romans, serial monogamy, which means you continually have a new person. And
Yep.
You just divorce
There you go. That's right. Yeah. That's actually what we do for the most part. But actually, that's not even necessarily, especially for younger folks, that's not necessarily what's happening. And then also for this like top 1% guy that doesn't have to commit.
Oh, no.
So basically, he's got a harem. He's got 20 girls.
Yeah, it's more like King Solomon, but he does not actually married to any of the women. He's just like sleeping with them, and that's it. I'm done. It's like a Tinder harem or something, Yeah,
dude. This stuff is so jacked up. All right, let's keep going here.
I don't think they had to talk to a woman anymore because it's just on the phone. It's just like, "What's up?" And then, what's up, and send a picture of your penis. Like, that's going to work.
Sometimes. So
sometimes
you asked about the phone. Simply put, it's a disaster. Whenever technology comes into an industry, it consolidates it. Mating has been consolidated in the worst way. 50 men on Tinder, 50 women. 46 of the women show all of their attention to just 4 men, leaving 46 men pursuing just 4 women. If mating was a country, it would be more unequal than Venezuela. We have huge mating inequality. And here's the problem. When people don't get together and there's no pheromones and there's no vibe, women, and we don't like to say this on the left, primarily try and make very quick assumptions about this individual's ability to garner resources in the future. So what you have is this concentration of interest, and you're ending up with Porsche polygamy, where 10% of the men get 90% of the attention, which does not lead to good behavior or form long-term relationships. E-commerce was disastrous for retail. Social media was disastrous for
Yeah. This is what I was trying to get at. I was saying social media is actually worse than the girl power, believe it or not, because I think the girl power would die out if there wasn't social media. I think it would die out because honestly, social media facilitates it. And I think part of the problem is with social media, women think, okay, I can get that guy because he looked at my DMs and he likes me, but he doesn't like you. He just wants to sleep with you. He don't like you. You know what I mean? Like, he don't want you. He just wants you for a night. And the woman doesn't get it into her head that that's all this guy wants. And she doesn't know that and can't see that through social media. And that's part of the problem. And the men is the same way. So it's like this imbalances everywhere, and it causes all these problems. That's my thoughts. But what do you think?
Yep. You have anything else you want to show me?
Well, it's just, I mean, it's just kind of weird to me. Yeah, actually, I have some really interesting stuff. If you want. Okay, so I already talked about that. I did talk about this last time, didn't I? Did I talk about the substations and all that stuff last time?
I think you could probably do it again if you did. I don't remember.
Okay, so like I said, we're too busy worrying about our Twitter and our social media when there's actually really huge things happening. And it doesn't seem as if our GOV really cares to tell us what's really going on. They're too busy trying to lie to us. Like you said, a lot of politicians love to lie. But we have some weird stuff going on in America currently. And one of them happens to be the fact that we had all these power grid going out over in Washington. And what's really, a lot of people didn't connect the dots on this, is that all these are near Tacoma, Washington. And if you go and look at where the training was for some of these, they had CHINA, we're talking soldiers, over in Canada for 2 years, training 100 miles away from this Tacoma, just above it. I could show it on a map. If you pull up a map, it's in Vancouver. So in Vancouver, they were training these troops. Why would you train troops from another country in Canada? That doesn't even make sense. Why would it be right next to the American border? That don't make any sense either. Why are we allowing that? So at any rate, one of the things I remember learning, and because I like to study this stuff all the time, this is what I'm into, is this kind of stuff. Back 10 plus years ago, they were talking about something got leaked and how if the Ruslans, if you know who I mean by the Ruslans, I'm talking about RUSSIA. That
I
country,
get it.
yeah. If those guys were going to come in and take, of course, over America, well, how would they do it? They would take out our power, and that would take down our communications, and then they could easily come in with nobody having electricity, right? So what would they do? What would be the first thing they do? And of course, CHINA or China is involved in directly allies with the Ruslans. What would they do? They would try first testing out which ones they could take down. And actually, it's not just these in Washington. There's actually others around the country around the same time frame that were taken down as well by hackers. And by the way, China is well known for their hackers. They have some of the best in the world. Also, the Ruslans have some of the best in the world. So what I'm saying is they could be testing right now some of their stuff. And from what I understand, CHINA has a ton of their people over in our country at any moment. And I'm not, this is well known. I mean, if you go do research on these topics, there's thousands upon thousands of people that are ready at any time to go and do something. And what if they all on one day were given the word and then they went out, all these substations, took them all down on the same day? Everybody would be without power. Nobody would have a clue what's going on. Next thing you know, a bunch of ships land. You see what I'm getting at? So this stuff is already going on. And of course, there's a number of stories out there talking about the fact that they're looking at that as a problem. They're already talking to their own people. China particularly is talking to their own people about being prepared for WAR. And the Ruslans have been pointing certain types of very powerful at us now. And a lot of people are just too busy. Yeah, Ukraine. Yeah, let's send more money over. I mean, they don't understand what this really means, what this could lead to. And if this does happen, you're going to wish it never did, because this ain't like number 2 or number 1. They got really, really, really big stuff now. This whole earth could be like a sci-fi movie, everything like one of these sci-fi apocalyptic movies afterwards.
Yeah.
That's what it would be like. And of course, I think I did cover some of that on the last video. I'm not sure. I just put up a video on my main channel talking about that yesterday, I think. But I actually found out something else really awesome, but we can talk about that in a minute if you want. I don't know where we're at in time.
Okay. I'll show one more video and then you do that.
It's a Bible thing, but it's something absolutely amazing that I found that pretty much nobody knows, but go ahead.
Okay.
Video breakdown.
Okay, let's see here. I don't know, maybe this one. No, not that one. Maybe we'll do this one. This is
Garbage Man? What is this? Ex-wife? Ex-husband? What do we got going on here?
I don't know if I want to show this one. Hold, one second. I'm trying to decide if I want. You know what? We'll just do this, especially with the time. We'll do this other one instead. We'll do this one.
All right. What's this other one?
Okay, so you can't see the whole thing because of the orientation of the video, but it says, "Do women push marriage to keep up an image?" Okay, do women push marriage to keep up an image? Okay, so let's see what we're talking about here.
More easily bored in relationships, men or women?
Women.
If women are more easily bored, why are they more likely to want marriage and commitment?
Status.
If women are strong and independent and don't need no man, why does the pressure of marriage and commitment typically come from women?
They're liars.
That's funny, dude. Hey, she has nothing to lose, man. She's older. She don't care anymore. She's like, I'll just tell it all.
Yeah, that's right. So she was stating some real stuff there. So we do know we know that, and I know people don't like it when you generalize characteristics about men and generalize characteristics about women, but the reason that I think it's important to have a sort of at least an understanding of what the general thing is, of course you can find outliers, is because that's how most people are going to be. And that's actually a good tool. It's a good thing to to understand, because if you're in an actual situation, it's kind of like this. If you're in an emergency situation, if you haven't figured out what certain common things that people tend to do, what the general stuff is, you could be like totally crippled and totally worthless. So people that actually are effective at navigating the world, they understand general things about people, and that actually helps them to make decisions faster. You're in a pinch, you can quickly go to it, rather than, well, I need to account for the outlier, and I don't want to say that the person is like this because it could be this 1%, that could be this. You're not gonna do that.
That's funny, dude. I think that's some of the people that get offended and like, you're judging that person and all this stuff. And then it's so funny. I saw a tweet of someone like saying that to someone else, and then later they got used by the people they were defending. So I just thought it was kind of hilarious, because they were defending someone like they're not like that, and then they get used by them. So they take all their money and stuff. It's just like you're saying,
right? So there's just certain things that are probably not a good idea to risk. But anyhow, so when you talk about men and women, clearly women get bored faster than men, or more easily than men. That's clear. That's like and again, you can go like, okay, we can talk outliers if you want to talk outliers. That's fine. I'm not saying that there are no women that don't get bored, but on the balance of averages, women are going to tend to get bored more than men do. Men can do like the same thing over and over, eat the same food.
That's me, man.
It doesn't matter. But that is just not what on the average woman is like.
I think
the average woman wants more variety.
I think you're right in some respects, but I think there are some women that are like literally where they just can do the same thing every day. My wife's kind of like that, but I know what you're talking about. Some women just can't. I remember this one girl in her high school. I mean, I was with her for one day and she was already bored. I think her name was Kelly, and she was already cheating on me after one day. It was just absolutely ridiculous. Probably the worst I'd seen out of bored women, like you're saying, that they have to be impressed every second of the day or they don't want to be with you. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there are
women and that of course is sort of all the way on the other side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah. That's like
because I think
example.
in order to be able to live a successful life, if you can't get control of just this idea of that everything's supposed to be entertaining you and you're supposed to be titillated at all moments. If you can't get control of that, then you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to go far. So we're using sort of a bell curve sort of model where most of the extremes are going to be for men are going to be on the literally nothing ever changes, OCD, like just got to have everything the same. Most of those people are men, versus and then on the other extreme side, the ones that have to be totally entertained every single second, most of them are going to be women.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So we can do it like that, but in the middle where the general numbers are, you're still going to find that most of the guys are going to tend to be a little bit to this side on that. Most of the women are going to be a little bit to that on it. But,
and that's kind of good too in some respects. I mean, if it's properly, moved the right direction, like the woman might be more into planning stuff or getting you on some interesting fresh vacation or whatever, you know what I mean? The guy's like, oh, I didn't even think of any of that stuff,
Right. I always say this. Yeah. If it was just men, life would be totally boring.
Yeah, probably.
It would be totally boring.
Yeah.
and just consider what, like, even stuff like colors and stuff like that. Guys don't care on the balance of average. Dudes do not care about stuff like colors. They don't care about none of that stuff. It tends to be more like functional stuff, and that stuff would be a bunch of gray. Everything would be like some kind of gray or earth tone. It'll be totally functional, but there would be like no. It would be like the most bland stuff ever. Food would taste like basically the range of look. My range of seasoning skills is salt and pepper. Also, we could do barbecue sauce, or hot sauce. That's about as as sophisticated as that part of me is, But my wife, on the other hand, she's like incredible. Like, I mean, I don't even know how she does this, but we will not have the stuff that we need to make a certain dish, and some kind of way she makes a meal. We didn't want to go to the store or whatever. She makes a meal, and it's like, how did you do this with the stuff that was there? And this, even like the palette of seasoning and stuff. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. I don't do that. That's not my thing.
That's why you and I are not cooks. So
that's right. That's what. But I just put. I get up in the morning and I make my son breakfast every morning, and it is 2 eggs, and I've got like a microwave egg cooker. Yeah. So I give him 2 eggs and 2 to 4 waffles, and the waffles are just like Eggos. I put some butter on them. He doesn't want any syrup. He just wants butter on them, and then. For me, I eat 4 eggs. That's all I eat for breakfast. I just eat 4 eggs, and the way I season my eggs is I put a little salt on them. That's it. That's it. That's it. Salt and butter. That's it. Hey, look. What else do you need? I don't know what all this other stuff that you actually need is. Okay. Here, let's go back over to you, man.
All right. Well, I had this. Interesting thing I found. You guys might have read Daniel 9:24. A lot of these prophecies guys tell you that there's a week. There's 70 weeks, and we've fulfilled 69 of them. These weeks are each day is a 7 day. Each day is a year. So 1 week is 7 years. So 70 weeks would be 490 years. And they tell you that if you've ever listened to these prophecy guys, they always talk about there's going to be 7 years in the tribulation, 3.5 years in the middle of it. The Antichrist, all this stuff. You've heard this before?
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. So what's interesting is they just say, for some reason, it says there's going to be 70 weeks for this thing to happen. First, there's going to be the first 7 weeks is going to be where they essentially, let me see here. I can show you this. The first 7 weeks is basically them rebuilding the temple. They restore the temple. And then it says 62 weeks until the Messiah, right? So what's interesting is they say that, okay, it's 7 weeks plus 62, that's 69. There's this 1 week left, the 7 years that for some reason never got fulfilled. We've waited 2,000 years and it's going to happen soon. This is how they talk, right? Which doesn't make a lot of sense, at least at face value, because if you got 70 weeks, you would just assume they're all right in a row, right? You wouldn't think that would be like 1 extra week that just 2,000 years later, right? What's interesting is this was actually already fulfilled. I found out there's actually a historical reference in Flavius Josephus that shows exactly how this was fulfilled, and they're just simply misreading it. Okay, check this out. So it says there's 70 weeks. The first 7 weeks is to the rebuilding of the temple and rebuilding of Jerusalem. Okay, and then what they assume is that it's 7 plus 62 until the Messiah. But actually what I think it really is it's just 62. Because if you look at the next verse, it says, and after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off. It doesn't say 69, it says 62, right? Yeah. Now that would leave 8 weeks left because we're at, from the beginning, 62 weeks, then you got the Messiah, right? And there's 70 weeks total. So 70 minus 62 is 8 weeks, right? Sound about right? So what's interesting is there's a historical reference in Flavius Josephus of something being seen in the clouds, chariots and soldiers seen in the clouds surrounding Jerusalem around 80 AD. If you add 8 weeks, 8 times 7 is 56. You add that to the time around when Christ would have died, maybe 28 AD. That would be about 84 AD. So right around the time frame of this historical reference of them seeing chariots in the clouds is almost the exact time frame when this should have happened. So it's like literally, it says here that the city will be destroyed and the sanctuary. And here you have Flavius Josephus. Let me just read this really quick. Besides these, a few days after the feast, on the 1 and 20th day of the month of Artemius, a certain prodigious and incredible phenomenon appeared. I suppose the account of it would seem to be a fable, were it not related by those that saw it, and were not the events that followed it of so considerable a nature as to deserve such signals. For before sun setting, chariots and troops of soldiers in their armor were seen running about among the clouds surrounding of cities. So they surrounded Jerusalem. So these beings that were in the clouds surrounded Jerusalem. And after this is when Jerusalem was destroyed. Okay. It also says, moreover, at the feast, which we call Pentecost, as the priests were going by night into the inner court of the temple, as their custom was to perform sacred ministrations, they said that in the first place they felt a quaking and heard a great noise, and after that they heard a sound as of a great multitude saying, "Let us remove hence," or let's leave the temple. So I don't know if these are angels or people, spirits, or what that is, but it exactly fulfills what it says here in Daniel 9:26, that the city will be destroyed and the sanctuary. And that's exactly what happened. And what's interesting is even after that, he talks about there was a man whose name was Jesus. There's actually a lot of people named Jesus in Israel, not just the Jesus we all know, but this man who was a husbandman, a plebeian, for 4 years before the war began, at the time when the city was in very great peace and prosperity, came to the feast whereon it is our custom for everyone to make tabernacles to God in the temple, began on a sudden and to cry aloud, a voice from the east, a voice from the west, a voice from the four winds, a voice against Jerusalem and the holy house, a voice against the bridegrooms and the brides, a voice against the whole people. So you mentioned Jerusalem and the holy house, just like it says in Daniel. And they whipped him. And they told him to stop talking, and he kept talking anyways. He just kept saying it even when they did stuff to him. And 4 years later, they have this sighting in the sky in the clouds. You know how people talk about the rapture and you go up in the clouds? Mm-hmm. Could this have been a first century rapture? I'm not saying there isn't a future one as well, but I just found it really interesting how these prophecy guys use this to talk about the future when actually I think it already happened. This is talking about something that already happened back in 80 AD. It's kind of interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, maybe one time we can talk about, there's you have the pre-tribulation rapture folks, you have the post-tribulation rapture folks.
Right. I'm not saying there isn't a rapture. I'm not saying there isn't a rapture in the future, but they use this verse for that topic, and I think this verse has nothing to do with that. I think this is some sort of other sort of sighting in the sky, because a lot of people just assume there's one rapture. They think Jesus comes one time and that's it. And if you read in the New Testament, it talks about like he's talking to his disciples saying, "I'm going to come back quickly." When you say quickly, you don't think 2,000 years. Maybe 80 or 40 years, maybe 40 years or 50 years. That makes more sense, don't it? You see what I mean? But go ahead.
Yeah. But I think that could be a good episode talking on that topic. That would be interesting.
I just think it's interesting. No one ever knows about this, and Flavius Josephus is famous, and no one seems to know about this event.
Yeah,
it's really weird, But
it's very interesting.
Midnight.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
All right. Well, here, let's see here. Let's head back over here. So anyhow, yeah, it was a good show today, and we'll be back at it next week. Just real quick, like, share, comment, subscribe, become a channel member where you'll get access to all archived videos. Support independent media. Let's see here. Super chats enabled. Super thanks for the replay gang. All of that stuff. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word doctor. Keep in mind that I am migrating all of the music content over to my second channel. Just search for Dr. Thunder Music. Spell out the word doctor. Dr. Thunder Music. Just spell that out and you'll find the channel easily. Please head over there and sub to that channel. That'll really help. And I don't have anything else. You have any? You just dropped a new video?
Yeah. Actually, I put one up. I put one up earlier today on God Rules 2, but one yesterday on God Rules 1 about these power substations. But the one I'm talking about right here with this Daniel, I'm going to put that up soon, and maybe I'll reference our talk here so I can get people over onto your channel too.
Yeah. So that'd be great.
Yeah, because we actually talked about it here as well. So yeah. Also, I got the lights like you do. I just don't have them on, and I also have another camera right here.
Yeah.
I got stuff set up now. You'll probably see it in my new videos soon here. I think the latest video with the Daniel stuff, I actually show this stuff a little bit. So I just made it earlier today, but yeah.
All right. Well, that's our time. See y'all later. We'll be back next week. Let's see what I'll have coming up. I'll be doing a Car Thunder in the morning. So, yeah, and case closed on Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come back for that. Blase. See y'all later. Be well.
Wow.